Hello everyone, I hope you're all well. Now today we're going to look at equivalent fractions. So some fractions that are written with the different numbers have the same value. Okay, so equivalent means equal and equal means the same. So some fractions are the same, okay, even though they might have different numbers. So here we've got 1/2 and 2/4. So obviously they look the same. They're different numbers, but they look the same. Okay? So 2/4 is part of the half family. Okay, and the half is the one in charge. It's the smallest fraction. All right? So 1/2 and 2/4 are equivalent fractions. Okay? Now we're going to look at some more equivalent fractions to 1/2. Okay. They look like they're 1/2 as well. Okay, so that's going to be 3/6. Okay, I'm going to write that here as part of my half family. And then here we've got 12 equal parts in total, and we've got 6 parts shaded in. So that is going to be 6/12. Okay, so just going to write these out. I'm trying to see if we can note it. Okay, so I'm just going to skip a few. I'm going to put 6/12 there. Okay, so now I'm going to see if we can notice the pattern. All right, so started off with 1/2, then we've got 2/4, 3/6, and then we've always up to 6/12. So we'll try and see if we can fill in the blanks. So all these fractions are equivalent fractions. Now, if you notice the pattern, okay, right, from 1 to 2, we have to add 1. From 2 to 3, also to add 1. And at the bottom, to get from 2 to 4, we added 2. And to get from 4 to 6, we added 2. Okay? So whatever is the first fraction, so like 1/2 here is the leading fraction in the half family, okay? In order to find the equivalent fraction of 1/2, we keep adding on 1 at the top and 2 at the bottom. So let's see if we can try and fill in the rest of it, okay? So 5 plus 1 here gives me 4, plus 1 gives me 5. And obviously I plus 1 to get to 6. At the bottom, I'm going to plus 2. So 6 plus 2 gives me 8. 8 plus 2 gives me 10. 10 plus 2 gives me 12. So I got all the way up to 6/12. Okay? So I've added on 1 at the top and 2 at the bottom. So it's like the same as 1/2, the same number. Okay? Now, another way you can look at it is by multiplying. When we're multiplying, you multiply the numerator by the same number as you do to the denominator. So, right. So 1, in order to get to, in order to get to 5, let's say. So if I get from 1 to 5, obviously you need to multiply by 5. And I'm going to do the same to the denominator. I'll have to multiply by the same number. So whatever I do to the top, I do to the bottom. I'll also multiply by 5. See the pattern? So 1 multiplied by 5 gives me 5. 2 multiplied by 5 gives me 10. 5/10 is also an equivalent fraction. Okay? So you can multiply, find the pattern, and also if you notice about each fraction. 2 is half of 4. So double 2 gives you 4. 3 is half of 6. So double 3 gives you 6. 4 is half of 8. So you just double 4 to give you 8. 5 is half of 10. So you just double 5 to give me 10. And then 6 is half of 12. So you just double 6 to give you 12. So that's the half family. Okay, so whatever you do to the top, you do to the bottom and multiply. to give you the equivalent fraction. Okay, it could be the same if you want to get to a half to 6/12. So obviously you multiply the numerator by 6 to give you 12, to give you 6, sorry. And you multiply 2 by 6 to give you 12. So you can multiply by any number to get an equivalent fraction, but it needs to be the same number top and bottom that you multiply by. Now, we're going to look at the quarter family. So here, if you notice, I've got a quarter. Okay, so I've got 1 out of 4. I've got 2 8s, so I have 8 equal parts and 2 are shaded in. 12 parts, 3 are shaded in, and 16 equal parts and only 4 are shaded. So if you notice that those 4 fractions, they look the same. Okay, so the quarter is the leading fraction there. Okay, it's the one in charge. So we're going to look at the quarter family now. Okay, so obviously we know that 2 8s is the equivalent fraction. We know 3 12s, the equivalent fraction, and 4 16ths. Okay, now we're going to see how do we get from one fraction to the other. So again, think like we did with our half. Okay, see if we notice the pattern again. So to get from 1 to 2, plus 1, we plus 1, plus 1. Now to get from 4 to 8, plus 4. Get from 8 to 12, plus 4. 12 to 16, we plus 4 as well. Okay, so basically I added on 1 at the top and add on 4 at the bottom each time. That gives me the equivalent fraction. Okay, so it's just like my original fraction. I'm adding the same numbers, top and bottom. I'm adding 4, adding 1. Also, if I wanted to multiply, okay, so if I want to get from 1 to 3, okay, so from 1 to 3, I'm going to multiply my numerator 1 by 3 to give me 3. And remember, whatever I do to the top, I do to the bottom. They're going to multiply the 4 by 3 as well. That gives me 12. Okay, so 1 quarter and 3 12ths are equivalent fractions. They equal each other. Okay, so whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. Okay, now I'm going to see if we can continue on a little bit. So think of our pattern. Okay, so you've added on 1 at the top and add on 4 at the bottom. So if I add on 1, that's going to be 5. If I add on 4 at the bottom, that's going to give me 20. So 5 20ths. Okay, now if I was to go a bit further on, so I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with 9. Okay, let's try and think now how we can find the denominator. Okay, so how do we get from 1 to 9? So think of your multiplication. Okay, we multiply 1 by 9 to give me 9. Let's multiply by 9. And then, remember, whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So we're always going to multiply the bottom by 9 as well. So 4 multiplied by 9 gives me 36. Okay, so that tells me that 9/36 is an equivalent fraction of a quarter. So they're both equal. Okay, so if you notice the pattern again, right, with the numerator and denominator, okay, so look here at the 2 8s. So 2, if you multiply that by 4, it gives you 8. If you multiply the 3 by 4, it gives you 12. If you multiply 4 by 4, it gives 16. So that's the quarter family. Show you how we find equivalent fraction where the leading fraction, its numerator, is not 1. Okay, so we don't have 1 this time as a numerator, just like a half, a third, and a quarter, we have got 3/4. Okay, so if you look up here, so I've got 3/4 here, 4 equal parts, 3 shaded in. Okay, then I've got 8 equal parts here, and 6 parts are shaded in, so it's 6/8. And then here I've got 12 equal parts, and 9 are shaded in. So that tells me that 3/4, 6/8, and 9/12 are equivalent fractions. Okay, so write them down here and we're going to see what pattern we notice now. Okay, so how do I get from 3 to 6? Okay, so we're not adding 1 this time. Are we or are we not? So 3 to 6. So to get from 3 to 6, we add 3. Not 1, 3. We add 3 to 6 to give me 9. Okay, look at the bottom now. So we've got 4. How do we get from 4 to 8? So you know the 4 plus 4 gives me 8. How do I get from 8 to 12? 8 plus 4 gives me 12. See the pattern? So the number here on top, which is 3, so we're adding on 3 each time. Our denominator here, the bottom number, is 4, and we're adding on 4 each time. All right. Now we're going to see if we can find the next one. So obviously we're going to add on the same again. So add on 3 to 9, that gives me 12. And the bottom I need to add 4. So 12 plus 4 gives me 16. So 12 sixteenths is an equivalent fraction of 3/4. Okay. Right, I'm going to see if I find one larger one. Okay, so I'm going to find 15. Okay, so we're going to use multiplication here to help us find this one. So how to get from 3 to 15? Right, so we know that 3 times 5 gives me 15. Okay, so let's do that there because we don't have enough room. 3 times 5 gives me 15. So whatever due to the top, due to the bottom. So I'm also going to multiply 4 by 5. 4 by 5 is 20. So 15/20 is an equivalent fraction of 3/4. Okay? So guys, when you're finding the equivalent fraction, find a pattern. When you're multiplying, multiply the same number top and bottom. Best of luck in your work. Bye for now.